your arms just to keep standing. I need your breath just to keep breathing. I need your voice just to keep on dreaming. I need your love to never go away.
Hello again. My name is Donna Swanson. I'm the Executive Director at Focus Alternative Learning Center in Canton. We're a program for kids on the autism spectrum, and we are doing our TV show here at Nutmeg TV called Focus on Autism. And I have my co-host Lucas Hofstetter here.
Thank you all for joining us again.
And some of our favorite panel members. And today we're going to be talking about...
Probably our first controversial subject, and no, it's not politics. Actually, we're going to be discussing video games and other kinds of screen-type related devices and their therapeutic value for us, what exactly they do that helps us to de-escalate and sometimes help regulate our behavior and our anxiety. We're going to be covering a number of different sorts of electronics today, ranging from the video games to sometimes just coming home and watching a simple game of sports, although in my mind, no game of sports is simple, but...
But we call them screens.
That's our operative term. And my associates are going to be cueing me in on this because I tend to be a bit scatterbrained sometimes, but...
And we're also going to link it into some tips for traveling and what some of the obstacles for traveling are.
Absolutely.
Correct? All right.
So I guess first we were going to start with... We were going to go down the line, yes? And so why don't we begin with, like, for example, Dan, what sorts of screens, I guess, do you use most often?
I use I have a Nintendo Wii at home, and I enjoy playing that. I play it for like an hour, not or less a day.
Are you allowed only so much video time, or it's just what you choose for yourself?
No, my parents don't enforce not that long a limit. No, they usually let me find my own limit for video games.
That's really excellent.
Yeah.
And you don't have problems getting off the game or anything like that? Because I know
No.
some of my kids that I work with we can't get them off the screens once they're on them.
So, with some games, I'm like that, depending on how difficult / challenging it is.
Mm-hmm.
But normally with most games, no.
And what about when you were little?
When I was little, I enjoyed using the computer because at that time, my doctor told me I could not play handheld video games because I have epilepsy.
Oh, so because they thought that would trigger a seizure.
They did, and even my parents were very limited even about watching TV. No, that would involve any flashings of light because they were afraid I might have a seizure.
Okay. Do you still have seizures, or?
I haven't had one for 5 years.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now, I will say for you, Dan, as Dan is also an intern in our mentorship program.
Yay.
Dan is generally very good about turning off video games when asked, and provides great role modeling to his peers for that as well, which we certainly appreciate.
Thanks.
Yes, he's a really good.
Transfer those skills on forward.
What about computer games? Do you do any of those, or how do you like to spend your time on the computer?
When I'm on the computer, I don't do that much. I'll play a computer game for a little while, but I don't spend that much time on the computer. I mostly spend it playing the Wii with my sister.
Surf the web much?
No, not really.
And what I know, Lucas, this is one of the things that you were going to ask, but what does doing video games, or how does that help you? What does it do for you?
If I'm having a particularly hard or stressful day, particular video games can help decrease the amount of stress. Because it allows me to finish a certain level and take my anger or disappointment out on computer players rather than even myself or my family.
Good. So, Lucas, what would you say to that?
I would say that it's definitely a more constructive way of venting one's frustration, and one that I can speak to as well personally. It can be tough because sometimes it's easy to get sucked into video games, but if you can really regulate yourself on that and know when you've had enough, when you've gotten out enough frustration and you're not just obsessing, it can be a very powerful tool. Right,
Yep.
Dan?
Yeah. Not usually it takes me more than 10 minutes to exhaust my frustration on something.
You've really grown a lot, Dan, in how you handle yourself and the strategies that you use. It's very impressive, which is
Thanks.
why you are an intern.
Yep.
Do you have any favorite games you like to use for stress relief, Dan?
I like strategic games that not allow me to think more than fight. Whereas I enjoy playing the Wii to humiliate my sisters, but I also enjoy just not doing nothing in particular.
So you're still being a good sibling. That's good.
Always an important tool.
Glad you're not neglecting your responsibilities as a big brother.
Which is to torture your sister.
Apparently.
Apparently.
All right. Anything else that you wanted to say about screens or?
That maybe for kids who have more difficulty exiting video games, maybe a time limit would not be a bad idea. Because with some kids it isn't as easy to transfer to another activity from video games.
Yep. We see that all the time at Focus, right?
Yeah.
Transitions are difficult.
In any case.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dan.
No problem.
Miss M, what sorts of games, or screens rather, do you enjoy?
Well, I like to play console games, but sometimes even more than that, I like to watch other people play.
Why is that?
I don't know. I've always liked that. When I was little, I would watch my brother play, and now that I've grown up, I have a boyfriend who plays games, and I watch him play. It's just, I don't know. It's something that I've always used to, and it's just interesting to see what would go on and everything, and how. I mean, still play plenty of games myself, but sometimes I like just watching other people play it more.
Is it fair to say that you're pretty darn good at video games?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Because you really can hold your own in a video game.
Yeah.
And Emily's mom and her used to play quite a few video games together.
I still do.
Yeah.
I just did the other weekend with her and someone else. We basically play those, little multiplayer party games like Mario Party and stuff like that. My mother likes those kinds of games. As for me, I like RPGs or role-playing games, which are basically games that tell a story, because I like those the best, and I like watching my friends play it and playing them myself at the same time, because I love being in my own little world, and it's a part of another big world that it opens up and creates for me. And when I get home from like work and school or something, it takes my mind off things and it pulls me into that world.
Yep. And remember your first computer?
Well, the first computer I actually owned myself, that was my laptop in 1999.
And you loved that computer.
Yeah.
You hoped it would never end, right? And when it did end, you had a really hard time letting go of that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I bet you still have it.
Yeah, I still have it. It just doesn't work anymore.
But that was that, and you had said earlier that was actually like a friend to you.
Uh-huh.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I don't know. I'm a very shy person in public, so I would meet people online and through things and through similar interests, and then talk to them about about the similar interests and everything, and then soon they would become my best friends, you know, outside of, because especially when I was in high school, I didn't really have any other friends, but.
Are some of these people still your friends?
Mhm.
So they've been, you know, you've met people online that you've been friends with for years.
Yeah, at least 8 at the longest, 8 years.
That's great. That's great. Lucas, what else would you ask Emily? I know.
Well, we wanted to kind of draw it into travel as well, and I know that for me, when I'm traveling, I don't tend to be able to play so many video games because I'm usually the one driving, but we came up with something that we wanted to talk about that for travel purposes, sometimes the handheld games can help a lot, and I know you use yours a great deal on the road.
Mhm. And they do help a lot. They help make the time pass by very quickly, and though it's technically isn't really a screen, things like MP3 players they are kind of like screens, but they also do help pass the time. This electronics in general, I would say, but yeah, I would also say not to overuse them, but because like Donna said, because the computer might have been my friend, but I had been threatened to have it taken away from me at night because I would stay up late on it, but I wouldn't have that. But I know there is a limit on these things.
You almost had a good reason for wanting to stay up late, though. It was a way of getting some social contact that you weren't getting in the quote-unquote real world, yeah?
Yes.
I just wanted her to do it before midnight, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, there's some pretty interesting people online after midnight.
But now you're a young adult and you can do what you want.
Mhm.
Nobody's telling you what to do, right?
Yes.
Which is a good thing. Lucas?
Well, my taste in, before I use the word video games again, because that is generally my taste in screens is primarily video games. I'm not so much a computer person. I use computers for work, use them for some recreation, sending emails back and forth. I'm not a big Twitter or AIM person, except in very select cases of people I actually want to talk to. But video games have always been tremendous for me for several reasons. First of all, because it was so hard to get me off of them when I was younger.
Which I remember.
Donna remembers very well. Second of all, because they really, in terms of therapeutic value, video games have had, for me anyway, a very calming and relaxing effect. The problem is, I would come home from school sometimes and have had such a rotten day at school, and it happens so often that my parents would only just see me playing video games all the time and would say, Lucas, that's all you ever do. And I would say, no, that's all you ever see me do. And it would become just a whole big issue. But playing video games helped me relax. It helped me just sort of tune out whatever bullying or being picked on or wrangling with teachers or whatever else had gone on in school that day. And it helped separate that out from the life the lack of a life, I guess, that I had at home. I say lack of life with tongue in cheek because I'm kind of a solitary person. I don't like to be around lots of people. I don't like lots of direct contact. Emily and I are very much alike in that in many ways I would almost prefer to talk to larger groups of people online. I do play some online games. It's almost easier in that regard because you're distant from the other people you're speaking to. You can end a conversation at any time by turning off the power, and it's so much just less intimate. It's a lot less intimidating in a lot of ways. I'm also a fan of role-playing games that have a good story. In many ways it's like almost watching a book play itself out, and I've heard some people say that it's just an excuse to not use your imagination, but I think that isn't really a fair thing to say. I think that in a lot of ways it encourages imagination. It certainly got mine going when I was younger. To me, it's a stress-reducing tool. I still come home from work pretty much every day and play some video games before making dinner and doing my other things, getting my paperwork done, going to bed. So,
Lucas, you love music, but you're not one for MP3 players or anything like that, right?
No, not so much.
And why is that? I mean, not liking having something in your ear, or?
Partly that, it's a sensory thing. I can't stand the sensation of either the earphones or even the ones that cover the ears rather than going directly in them. I do, however, find that my taste in music has been very tremendously influenced, and I dare say expanded by listening to the music in many of my favorite video games. You'd be surprised at some of the great soundtracks that you'll find. And as a matter of fact, a few years ago, I was actually involved in helping set up a concert of video game music at the Bushnell Theater. The name of the concert was Dear Friends. It was in 2005, if any of our viewers happen to remember or have attended that. I had a very modest role in helping bring that about. That was fun. That was fun.
Watching Alex, that's okay. Alex, you have found a lot of different ways to entertain yourself today. Earlier it was your pocket, now you're doing multiple things with your fidget. That's good.
There is one more thing that I'd like to share, just again to connect all of this back to travel, and that is this little device here, which I've only recently picked up, but I used to own one of the earlier versions of these. This is a Nintendo DS, and it is awesome for travel. This is just one example of many of the different handheld game consoles that you can purchase and use. Again, where most of the places I go, I'm doing the driving, so I can't really use this while I drive, but this is great because it has a long battery life. You can use it in the car in the back seat and not completely annoy your parents or whoever else may be driving. Like Emily said, they make the time go by much faster. We went last year, I believe, we went to Washington, D.C. on business with Congress, and we took the train down, which was about a 6-hour train ride. And Emily used her DS for a good part of the time. Alex used his MP3 player. A couple of the other kids who were with us had MP3 players as well. They really helped the time go by. So these can be great devices as well as for use in the home. Again, it's just all about not overdoing it.
And next we're going to go to Andy.
Yep. And for me, like, I like video games, but I'm more interested in like sports. Like actually watching a game, like Lucas was saying earlier, like a simple game. Like for me, it's simple. Like I come home, I just like watch TV. I just sit on the couch and sort of veg out. Yeah.
Veg out.
Yeah.
Couch potato. Huh?
Yeah.
And what about?
And I eat dinner like as I'm watching the game too. So I bring my food over there, and I get everything all set first, and then I sit down, watch the game with a whole bunch of eats next to me.
A whole bunch of eats.
Meticulously prepared.
Yeah.
Now, Andy, you do like some video games.
Yeah, I do.
But a lot of them are the old time ones,
Yeah, like
right?
Super Mario Brothers and everything like that, like Duck Hunt, if you remember that. Yeah.
Oh man, brings back memories.
So you like and you do play a lot of games with the guys.
The guys at Focus, yeah.
Yeah, so that.
And Shannon House and it's too.
Yep. So you're good enough at video games to keep up with that.
Yes.
I've just got to ask Andy, are you into sports video games?
Yeah. Yep.
That makes sense because he is
combining the two, yeah.
He's a sport magnet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could just see you playing any of those football or
Oh, yeah.
soccer or baseball games.
Yesterday I was playing the bowling game at
Wii bowling.
There, yeah. The Wii bowling game.
Yep. Good for you.
Yep. JJ and I were having a great game, and Jesse too. So.
I was there.
Yep.
And Andy, what helps you with traveling? You don't use any of this stuff when you're traveling,
Sometimes
do you?
I had a Game Boy a long time ago that I would play in the car, so that would be like my video game traveling combination there. So.
Yeah. Alex, we're getting ready for you. Are you getting ready for us? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, take it away, Lucas.
Well, Alex, first of all, let's start with the screens that you enjoy. What sorts of screens do you use at home?
I use the computer. I only use for working to go on YouTube and play the PS2 and the Wii. You haven't played my GameCube in a long time.
Once you have a Wii, you sort of almost don't need a game.
And the only games I've been playing so far is Star Wars.
It's one of your favorites, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Alex, you're also a fan of the Star Wars movies, right?
Yeah, they're my
Big time.
favorite.
You and Andy
Yeah.
have that in common.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that comes up between you two quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And Alex, how do screens help you? Like maybe when you come home from school, you've had a tough day. How do screens help you?
Usually they keep my mind busy, especially when I'm playing them at social club.
Yeah, you had once said that you have a lot of talk and your mind has a lot going on, and that when you play video games or you do something like that, it helps calm you down, right?
Just keep your mind busy.
Keeps your mind busy on other things, right? But you also like you have your handheld game too, right?
I don't really play it that much anymore.
And because your mom and dad used to let you do that a lot, but now they're saying that you've grown up so much that when you're in a restaurant or something, they don't have you use your handheld game because they want you to kind of be with them and be, part of everything. So you've really grown up a lot where you can actually be in a restaurant and not have to occupy yourself. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. And you also like music a lot too. And do you have an MP3 player?
I don't use it that much anymore. Mostly I use my iPod. And my iPod has 11 songs from the album All the Right Reasons by the band Nickelback.
Oh yeah.
Nickelback's one of my favorite. Others are Bowling for Soup and Offspring.
You're also a pretty big Tom Petty and Dragon Force fan, right?
Which you have in common with Andy.
Yeah.
Right? Did we want to talk a little bit about travel with Alex?
Yeah, because it's kind of a big helpful thing for you when you travel. I know that on the school bus, Alex, you bring your iPod, right?
Yeah, because there used to be. Because sometimes there are kids who drive me crazy on the bus, and I decided that I'm gonna bring my iPod or MP3 player with me the next time I go on a plane.
Yeah. So when you have your iPod on the school bus, do you just ignore what the other kids are doing?
Yes.
So that really helps keep your behavior and your frustration in check, correct?
Right.
Yep.
And I saw that you also had your iPod with you when we were on the train to Washington, D.C., and that was a good long train ride. That was 6 hours.
Just imagine how long it takes 6 hours for a train ride to Washington, D.C. Just imagine how long it'll take for a plane ride to Hawaii.
Probably
Yep.
something you'll want an MP3 player or an iPod for the trip, huh?
That could take days.
Alex, do you ever have trouble getting off screens? He's looking at Mom. What do you think? Do you have trouble getting off games? Yes or no?
Sometimes I do because it's a really hard video, especially if it's a really hard video game. Like if there's this really hard part, I don't want to have to do all over again. I want to save it. Sometimes when I can't save a video game after I've completed a hard part, I've been trying so hard to complete for weeks, then I get frustrated.
Get frustrated. Yeah.
Though Star Wars is an easy game for me.
You've also said, Alex, that one of the good things about video games is that if you get frustrated, you can turn them off and walk away, right?
Because I get tired of losing over and over, so I angrily turn it off and leave.
So, but
Never do that.
that's a good coping mechanism then.
When I was younger, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost time for us to end, and we just have a few more minutes. How would we like to wrap it up? I know, Andy, is there anything you'd like to say as a final word?
I just wanted to say thank you for joining us, and also that. You mean about the show too? Or?
Yeah,
Okay,
that would be good.
Well, I just traveling has always been a good thing for me as well. Like over the years, it's gotten me to leave the house sometimes. And it got especially if I have a good say a New Britain Rockets baseball game to go to and everything.
So you have a non-screen incentive to travel that's
there's
sports-related.
plenty of reasons why I like to go out. Yeah.
So, just so for parents, just try and understand what the video games mean to your children, how to help them get off if they need to, so that they're not frustrated, and just when you're traveling or out in restaurants or things like that, sometimes there's a lot of things that parents have now that they didn't have available, when I was a kid, to help, keep somebody active, and but it's not all bad. Is that our message?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in keeping with that message, it would probably be good to close on a point that Emily's made before, which is that going into your own world sometimes is something that can be really helpful and therapeutic when the world that you're in is just really difficult to be in. And video games can be a great way to go into your own world, and sometimes you might need a little bit of help being brought back out, but for me, like, I have a lot of trouble going into that space, and video games are a way of helping me get there. So it's just important to remember that sometimes being in your own world isn't a bad thing, because the world around us can be so overstimulating, it can be so stressful, and it can really often not be a very friendly place. And sometimes all we need is just a little bit of time away from the world we're in. And this is, screens can be one of many possible ways to achieve that. So.
Basically, they just have screens, or video games or screens in general, can have a good effect and bad effect on people. It just depends on how you use it.
So moderation, and that's something that Dan, you seem to have mastered that at a young age. All right. Again, we'd like to thank you all for joining us, and we will be back with some more interesting topics. We hope you find this interesting. Yeah. And guys, what would you like to say? Goodbye to the audience.
Goodbye, and thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and aloha, Alex. Is that what we would say if we were in Hawaii? Alex wants to go to Hawaii. Join us again.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being with us.